How can we expect people to care if they don't even know who we are? I'm a Middle Eastern Jew, she's a Middle Eastern Christian, and we were united by faith.
So 2.4% is the size of the Jewish population here in the United States, but they face 55% of all religious hate crimes.
That a Jewish girl was assaulted and battered, and an Israeli flag was burned on campus.
Now, what does the existence of a Jewish state mean for you?
But I think the most important thing we could do is normalize Judaism and normalize Jewish people.
Shalom, everybody from New York City. Today I'm here with Adela Cojab, who is a Jewish activist here from New York City. So perhaps we can start by you introducing yourself, your background.
Of course, thank you. So my name's Adela, and my family is originally from Syria and from Lebanon, and they left because they're Jews, and that's what Jews have to do, and they went to Mexico. So I was born in Mexico, and I moved to the U.S. when I was young. I grew up in New Jersey in a small Jewish community where everyone was a Syrian Jew just like me. And I had never experienced anti-Semitism until I got to college, and suddenly I found a world that was very different from the one I grew up in. I was used to everyone being Jewish and the same ideas as me, and suddenly in college, everything became about Zionism on campus. And the Jewish community was boycotted, isolated, protested, to the point that a Jewish girl was assaulted and battered, and an Israeli flag was burned on campus. And after that happened, I'd been meeting with the school for months to tell them that anti-Semitism was real and it was hurting the Jewish community. No one would work with us, no one would partner with us. In my own classes, no one would work with me. And instead of doing something about it, the school gave an award to the group that spent 2 years harassing our community. And I started thinking about it, and I realized that had any other community been discriminated against the same way the Jewish community was discriminated against, that would be a clear violation of the law. So I asked if I had a case against the school, and they said no. And after analyzing my case, we decided to bring it anyway, to make the statement that Jewish students should be protected like every other minority. Because for some reason, when it comes to protecting Jewish students as a minority, they're different from other people. So essentially my case made it to the White House, and it helped prompt an executive order. A law was changed on a national level, and now Jewish students are protected under the law.
6 months ago, I took legal action against NYU, only 2 weeks before graduation. To all of the students in the audience today, don't be afraid to stand up, because you deserve better.
And now I'm in law school, and I aim to become the defender for the Jewish people in the legal world. So it's a different kind of advocacy, but I hope to move that forward.
And I came across Adela's content on Instagram, actually. It was so inspiring. It was in your podcast, Americanisch, which you can also check out.
And if the word anti-Semitism is problematic, and I know we're going to get people in the comments being like, no, anti-Semitism actually refers to any Semitic people. Sure, let's call it Jew hatred, because that's what it is. The thing with Jew hatred, anti-Semitism, is that it evolves over time, because the Jew has always been a scapegoat. Even from the beginning of time, when religion was the most important thing, it was religious anti-Semitism, the Jew as a Jesus killer, right? And then over time, it's evolved to whatever it is that's the ill of society, the Jew can be. Because if the Jew is poor, the Jew is social vermin. That's sucking resources. If the Jew is rich, then the Jew is the capitalist with power that controls from the top down. And a couple of years ago, the biggest evil in the world was colonialism. So the Jew was a white colonialist through Zionism. And right now it's about race. Right? So right now the Jew is white. But if you backtrack, when the best thing you could do is be white, if you look at the Holocaust, the whole point of the Nazis, the group they fixated on, even though they hated minorities across the board, the group they fixated on was the Jew as non-white. Why? Because we're white passing.
Right.
And that's where you hear again the slogans, the Jews will not replace us, the Jews will not replace us.
It was very interesting because you really spoke about these things straightforward, and I think when these 2 weeks are quite important and for Israel and for the Jewish people. Tonight we'll commemorate Yom HaShoah. Next week we have the Remembrance Day for the fallen soldiers, and then the Independence Day. So it's a lot of emotions, like it is for the Jewish people. It's up and down, from celebration to grief. But we always want to also understand what kind of role the youth has in this context, in remembrance of the Holocaust, but also celebrating Israel and being Israel activists. So that's how I came across Adela's content. So but today, how does your activism look like?
So today my activism is a little bit different. I realize that one of the biggest parts of my life has always been my faith, my Judaism. And faith plays such a big role in my life, and I knew it would be the same for other people. So I met someone named Mariam. She is a Coptic Egyptian Christian, and I had never met a Middle Eastern Christian before. And I'm a Middle Eastern Jew, she's a Middle Eastern Christian, and we were united by faith. So now I mainly do interfaith advocacy. I talk about the importance of having belief, of having religion, of having guiding principles, not necessarily faith-based, but having principles that guide your actions. And together, Mariam and I started a podcast, and that's mainly what I do in terms of activism today. I learn about cultures that are different from mine, and I hope to educate about my own culture and my own faith. And also, I'm in law school, so I'm learning about equal protections, about civil rights, and about how we can make sure that all people are protected. And when we protect minorities, we do mean all minorities.
And as we're here in this very windy in New York, I'm thinking about the reality here on the streets. And as we know, the statistics that 2.4% is the number of, or the size of the Jewish population here in the United States, but they face 55% of all religious hate crimes. So can you share a bit more about your life here in New York City? How do you live here as a Jewish person?
So I'm not going to lie, anti-Semitism has gotten worse. And it started with anti-Semitism being microaggressions or Jewish people being looked down upon. But in the last couple of years, you hear more and more often of Jewish people attacked on the streets, Jewish people eating at restaurants, open protests against Jewish people. And as it gets worse, people do ask me, well, how do you feel to still live here? And for me personally, I choose to wear the biggest star I can, because I think that we shouldn't be hiding our Judaism to fight anti-Semitism, because then anti-Semitism wins. If the goal of anti-Semitism is that Jews should be ashamed and shouldn't be in our presence, then why would we give that to them? So I fight anti-Semitism with pride. And if that might be a little bit dangerous, I understand the risks. But I think the most important thing we could do is normalize Judaism and normalize Jewish people. It shouldn't be strange to walk on the street and see an Orthodox Jew. That shouldn't raise a flag. So whatever part I can do in that, whether it's myself wearing my Magen David or inspiring other people to show their Judaism proudly here in New York, I try to do that as much as I can.
And of course, we have to talk about Yom Ha'atzmaut, which is this rebirth of a Jewish state. And we have Israel. And so for you as a Jewish person, what does the existence of a Jewish state mean for you?
So for me, whenever I introduce myself, the first question is always, where are you from, right? And I say Mexico, and they say, where are you really from? And I say Syria and Lebanon. And they say, where are you really from? And then I say, well, I'm Jewish, right? And my whole family history has been migrations. In every generation of my family, there's had to be a migration. Every 2-3 generations, we have to go somewhere else. So knowing that Israel exists, that's the difference that we have now. That there is a place where you can exist and be Jewish and be protected. Because we're not the Jews of the past. We're not the wandering Jews waiting for countries to accept us. They should. That's the goal, equality, right? We should be proud to be citizens of the countries that we're from, and I am. But at the same time, we understand that the reality might not be like that. So for me as a Jew, as a Syrian, Lebanese, Mexican Jew, Israel has to exist. Because if it doesn't, then what does that mean for me? Right now I'm living in America, but who knows what the next path holds.
Yeah. I'm sure that we have an audience that's watching us, and they're European Jews or non-Jews. What would you say to them that are perhaps a bit curious about Israel advocacy, but perhaps feel a bit scared about being open about supporting Jewish people, but also Israel? What would you suggest as an activist?
I think the most important is to take the first step. We're living in a very different world. The world is changing, and it's a world of social justice, where every group is standing up for itself, and they're starting to support each other. So the most important thing you could do is not to forget Jews in your activism, and not to leave us behind. If you're a Jewish person, take the time to have conversations about yourself. How can we expect people to care if they don't even know who we are? And if you're not Jewish, take the time to meet someone who is, and listen. And being an ally isn't just about standing up for each other when things are hard, but it's about celebrating together when things are good. And that's why the dichotomy of Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaShoah, and then Yom HaAtzmaut is a good model, because you understand the struggles of someone, you understand the struggles of a people, and then you can celebrate how far they've come.
Yeah. We have Israel's actually 75th, which is a very significant and amazing number. And perhaps you have something you want to wish Israel.
So Israel's 75th is coming up, and that is a very big number. And a lot of people right now are following the Israeli news, and they're watching attentively. And my wish for Israel is to be receptive to its people. Israel's a nation that's also evolving and changing, and I think that it should be a place where all Jews feel comfortable. So my wish for Israel is for it to grow stronger and more united, and to finally come together. We can't expect also the world to come around Israel if Israel can't come even around itself. So my wish for Israel is unity. Happy 75th birthday.
Happy 75th birthday also for me. Thank you, Adela, for this amazing time to get to meet you, to really be inspired, and that really in today's world, somebody from the other side of the world can connect to somebody like-minded in the other side of the world, and this is what happens. I'm very, very happy for this conversation, and we encourage you, whoever you are watching, perhaps not only from our generation, you can be open and vocal, especially in terms of supporting the Jewish people in Israel. And yeah, you can wish Israel 75th birthday wishes also. Thank you, Adela. You can follow her on Instagram, on TikTok, and yeah, learn more about her activism and a Jewish life in New York. Thank you, and bye-bye.